Ready? Is everyone ready? So it's good to see you. And I was a little bit jet lagged last week, but I'm good now. And I'm really happy because we're actually in bar mitzvah season. And each kid is spectacular. You know, it's just so exciting. There'll be another great one this weekend. So if you can come to shul, each one of these kids is so special in the next coming weeks. And this kid coming up and the kid last week, it's all good. And I love this family doesn't have a ton of friends in the community. They're newer to the community and they're from, I think, Belarus. Is that, Nancy, is that where they're from? And so this will be the first bar mitzvah on either side in 3 or 4 generations because of the communists and the Nazis. So really, when we say Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Lechol Yisrael, we really mean for the entire Jewish people. And I just think they don't have a lot of family here and they don't have a lot of friends here. And so if we can all be their people, that would be great. The family is Mikno, and Nancy ended up selling them. How many taluses, Nancy? 3 different taluses?
One for the mother, one for the father, and one for the bar mitzvah boy.
Amazing, amazing.
We have these taluses actually at the Jewish Center. If anybody needs a talus, we have them on consignment from the Judaica store in Highland Park, which closed. I can't remember the name of it, which closed. And he gave us a whole
And they're gorgeous.
Yeah, they're really beautiful.
Really beautiful. So if you need to add to your collection of talitot, of talasim, or buy your friend or loved one a new talus, now's a good time. Talk to Nancy at another time. Okay, we're going to begin tonight with what I believe to be, for some people, one of the more challenging of mitzvot. You are welcome to, You're welcome to join me in the words of this bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Okay, I am going to begin on page 28, and we are going to do some rapid text study, but pretty in depth on each word. So who could read text 1? I read it a little bit, but let's read it in Hebrew. Tani, shh. Would someone mind reading the Hebrew? I'll read it. Kabed.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, good. Whoever was going to do it, great. Go ahead.
Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha lema'an ya'arichu yamecha al ha'adama asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach.
Yeah, and you have the translation there. Kabed, honor your father and your mother, so that lema'an, so that your days will be lengthened upon the land that God gives you. Let's first go to that word, kabed. So what did we say it means?
Honor.
Honor. And there's also a sense that the word has the connotation of heavy, of heaviness, and that it is maybe heavy upon us to have this way of relating to our parents. And why do we do it? According to this Exodus text, so that our days will be lengthened. So what do we know about a law that is given many or multiple times? What can you tell me about a law that's given many or multiple times in the Torah?
You're right. To teach us different things each time, to add to our understanding of the law.
That is absolutely the Chazal answer. So you are a good Talmud student, a good student of Jewish law, right? Give me a more socio-historical answer. If you have to keep telling someone to do something, what does it mean about that action?
Not easy.
Yeah.
We weren't doing it.
We weren't doing it. It was hard. Kaber alechem. It was hard. So both are true. It was hard and it should teach us something. Okay, so let's go to...
Can I ask a question?
Course.
I think it's interesting that we want to lengthen our days, but not the days of our parents.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I find, however, Mickey, you're right. It usually lengthens their days when we bring them honor or dignity. It might shorten ours, but it may lengthen theirs. How many of you have taken care of parents, have had that honor? Yeah, okay. That is very, very interesting.
Well, yeah. I think that it applies to our parents also, that they should have honored their parents, giving them long days. So it's something that came down through the generations.
Right. Well, we hope. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, we hope. Yeah.
Is there some idea that the honoring of the parents is a way you set an example also for your own children? So you move on and them honoring you, and it sort of carries on through the generations.
Yes, your two comments are certainly related. And of course, the rabbis don't imagine someone like me who doesn't have children, and they assume that you are doing this so that the next generation will do that. Yeah, it's also probably we live in a society that honors the elderly less than maybe any other society, right? That we have known in human history. We throw old people away. We don't honor them generally. Maybe not individually, right? But we are not China and we are not Israel, where elderly folks are given much more honor and kavod. I have a friend who moved to Israel about 8 or 9 years ago, and she decided to move her elderly parent with her. The elderly parent was in a nursing home, and I was in Israel the next summer, and I said, so Nu, what's it like? And she said it was just about 180-degree difference having her elderly mom in Israel than in an American facility. That on an Israeli bus, there is a sign that says usually mipnei seva takum, in the face of an elderly person, get up, give your seat up. And it is routinely practiced. There's a sign there, but it's also routinely practiced. That's how, like, you know you're really old in Israel when someone gives up their seat for you. It's a terrible moment. But also, we're not in a society that takes care of our elderly so well. We as individuals may. Okay, let's go to this next text so that I want to get to the next text so that we can get to the Gemara, to the Kedushin. Who would like to read the Vayikra text? The text from Kedoshim. Chapter 19 of Leviticus, text 2. Yep, thank you.
You shall revere every man his mother and his father, and keep my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God.
Okay, and so listen to how it sounds in Hebrew, because it's quite alliterative and it's beautiful phrasing. Ish imov aviv tira'u. A person, imov aviv tira'u. A person, their mother and their father, they should fear or revere. And my Sabbaths you shall keep. I am the Lord your God. So why are these two put together? What might be the difference between kabed and yirah? Reverence, honor and reverence. And in the language of Michelle, different words mean different things. They come to teach us different things. Rini, did you want to comment?
I did. I thought maybe even if you're at a point in your life where you can't honor them, which is a softer emotion, maybe you can just revere them as being the people who brought you into this world and took care of you, even if it was imperfect. And even if it's not imperfect, but it's different. I don't like the word fear myself. I like the word revere better, or respect. But you can revere and respect someone even if you don't have strong emotional feelings. It's just giving them respect.
Okay. And there is definitely it's hard to understand the word yirah, or we say it's sometimes translated as fear, but really it's awe, like yamim noraim from the word awe. Okay, now we are back to Dvarim and back to the Kabed language. Yes. Yeah, Melissa.
That text is not your parent. It is someone else's parent. Am I reading that incorrectly? You shall
No, it's your parent.
Every man his mother, not your. So that it's a generalized revering other people's parents as well.
That's interesting. I didn't understand it that way. I guess it could be understood that way. Yep. I don't know. I got to look at it a little more.
I think by seeing it that way, the way Melissa is presenting it, it's that all parents, mothers and fathers, no matter whose parent they are, should be revered just by virtue of the position as a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's connected to and keep my Shabbat?
Because it's for the whole community, as a community as a whole.
That's
and
interesting.
it makes it it makes it important because it puts it on the same level as Shabbat.
And where are they both found?
In the 10 Commandments.
Right. They're both found side by side in the 10 Commandments.
Maybe people were not observing Shabbat. Maybe it's going back to your previous.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to Devarim before we get to the really fun Talmud. The Torah is just the Vorspice till we get to the real text, the Talmud. Who would like to read Kabed et Avicha?
Oh, I just wanted to throw one more thing in there before you move on. I never thought of this before, probably obvious to people, but that why the honor the parents and honor Shabbat would be on the same level. And I was thinking that we honor God because God created the world and rested, and the parents created us. Is that where it came from? I never thought of that.
I don't know if that's where it came from, but we definitely talk about it that way, that God as parent. Yeah. And the way that we honor God is by observing God's Shabbat. God rested, we rest. Yeah. Honor your father and mother, ka'asher. Just like sivi, or as sivicha Adonai Elohecha. Just as you were commanded by the Lord your God, lema'an yarichun yamecha, so that your days will be long, uleman yitav lach al ha'adzama, asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach, so that it'll be tov, so that it'll be good for you. Honoring your parents means it will be good for you. Okay, we ready to go on to the actual text? All right, I'm gonna do I'm going to do the Hebrew first because some of you are Hebrew speakers and I'd love for you to be able to hear it. And then someone else will go to do the English. Who wants to do the English for us? Need a reader. Thanks, Myra. Myra, let me do the Hebrew first. Tanu Rabbanan, our rabbis taught, Ezahu Moreh, the Ezahu Kibud. Moreh, lo omed bimkomo, v'lo yoshev bimkomo, v'lo soter et divaro, or divarav, v'lo mirio, machrio, kibud, ma'achil umashke, malbish umachse, machnis umotzi. Okay, we're going to have a Mishnah here teaching us about what the rabbis taught.
Our rabbis taught what is fear and what is honor.
And so fear here, it could be fear, it could be awe, either way.
Fear means that the child must neither stand in the parent's place nor sit in the parent's place, nor contradict the parent's words, nor tip the scales against the parent. Honor means that the child must give the parent food and drink, cloth and cover, and lead the parent in and out.
Okay, so what is the difference between what these items are? What do they teach us? What is the difference between the items that are yirah, that are awe, and the items that are kavod, honor?
It seems to me like the fear is more practical. You should do these particular actual things, whereas I guess the honor is more practical. And the fear is more just thinking of them with respect.
Yeah, it does feel like that the honor is taking care of their practical needs. And so that is food and drink and clothing and housing or taking care of them, that they're covered well, like they have a blanket on them, and leading them in and out, like walking with them. And also leading them in and out could mean leading them in and out of this world to Olam Haba, to the next world. So we honor them by taking care of their actual needs. What's the first one? The first one is you're sitting in a conversation with your annoying parent, and they are saying something that is not truthful, and they are bugging you, and you sit and you don't contradict them. It feels like the moreh is harder. The first one is harder. The first one is, why would you want to contradict them? Only if you thought they were wrong, right? And why would you want to sit in their place? Because it's a better place. You want that seat. How many of you grew up with assigned seats in your house and nobody sat in mom or dad or the grandpa or the grandma's seat? Yeah, Michael, you had that?
Yeah. You know, the first part said to me, don't do anything that's going to diminish your parent.
Yeah.
But there's also lots of discussion that says, if your parent is telling you to do something that you really feel is harmful, do not follow your parent and do not do that.
Okay, right. So we're not there yet. We're going to learn the text in its time. And I think that you're right, that the first part, the Reisha, the first part of it is, you don't take away from the awe that's around a parent. You give them their chair, you give them their opinion, even when they're wrong, even when they support the political candidate that you think is terrible, all of those things, right? And the honor means you take care of their needs. I think that you could divide them either way, but they are definitely divided here. Does anyone have anything more they want to say about this Kiddushin? Okay.
I do.
Yeah, good.
I like the honor part. It made me think of the Parsha when we had for Noach, when he had too much wine, and his sons, two of his sons, they gave him honor when they walked him backward. and they gave him like something to clothe for him, and they showed him respect. So that's what it made me think of, like when you're keeping them clothed and keeping them covered. And so as when the dad, I guess, woke up from enjoying too much wine, he felt had his dignity, kind of thing.
So there's this idea of dignity in the other one. Yeah, I like that there's dignity. And there's also, look, I think that the hardest one here is the contradict. Also, what do you do if you don't have enough money and you have to feed either your children or your parents?
I like to answer this one. I live with my family, and sometimes the budget's tight, but I do volunteer work at different food pantries. So if it's something that I don't have monetarily, since I'm actually serving the community, I get to pick from the available foods. So I get to assist my family that way. So it, you know, there is the cash funds, but there's other provisions. It's kind of like gleaning when Ruth and Naomi used to glean in the field. So that's how I look at it.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely, it's beautiful. Okay, who would read the Rabbi Abahu? So now we're definitely in the time, a little later, the time of the Talmud, Rabbi Abahu. Someone read the English?
I can read it.
Thank you, Hamora Ellen.
Rabbi Abahu said, for example, my son Abimi has fulfilled the precept of honor. Abimi had 5 ordained sons in his father's lifetime. Yet when Rabbi Abahu came and called out at the door, he himself speedily went and opened it for him, crying, yes, yes, until he reached it. One day he asked him, give me a drink of water. By the time he brought it, he had fallen asleep. Thereupon he bent and stood over him until he awoke.
Wow. What is this telling us about what it means to honor a parent, even when we have other responsibilities in the world, like our children? Why does he run to open the door? Yeah.
To show him honor and respect. He didn't say to one of his sons, go answer the door for grandpa. You know, he went to honor his father, welcoming him to his house.
Yeah. It is his mitzvah. It's not his children's mitzvah. Although we're supposed to honor, elderly, it's your mitzvah to honor a parent. Okay. So we are going to go to this next text in Kiddushin, unless anyone has anything they want to say, ask, contribute. Okay, could someone read text 5 from the Gemara, from the Talmud, and Kiddushin 31? It can be in English.
I'll read. Just tell me when to stop.
Yeah.
Rab Judah said in Samuel's name, our Eliezer was asked, how far does the honor of parents extend?
Okay, so the question is, right? So now we have a question. Is there a boundary to honoring one's parents? Like, what are the boundaries to honoring our parents? Okay. Go ahead.
Said he, go forth and see what a certain heathen, Dama's son, Nethinah, by name, did in Ashkelon. The sages sought jewels for the ephod at a profit of 600,000 gold denarii. R. Kahana.
Rabbi, the R is Rabbi.
Rabbi. Okay, thank you. Rabbi Kahana taught at a profit of 800,000, but as the key was lying under his father's pillow, he did not trouble him. The following year, the Holy One, who was praised, gave him his reward. A red heifer was born to him in his herd. When the sages of Israel went to him to buy it, he said to them, I know you, that even if I asked you for all the money in the world, you would pay me. But I ask of you only the money which I lost through my father's honor. I'll finish that one. When Rabbi Dimi came, he said, he, Dama, son of Nethina, was once wearing a gold embroidered silken cloak and sitting among Roman nobles. When his mother came, tore it off from him, struck him on the head and spat in his face, yet he did not shame her.
Okay, so what does this first story teach us about how we deal with parents and our own needs?
Means you forfeit sometimes your needs in order to honor and care for your parents, and don't do anything like the last part. Obviously what the mother did was, terrible, but he did not shame her. He refrained from embarrassing her or shaming her. So you're giving up some of your own pride and for your parents.
Have any of you ever lived these situations? So I feel like I have. I had the honor of taking care of incredible parents. But one of them, who none of you here knew, Lee might have met him. My father had Alzheimer's disease, and so did things that were irrational and troubling and difficult. And what we learned that was more important than anything else was protecting his dignity, which meant not letting him know when he did something like this woman did. Spat in his face, tore him off, right? I'm assuming that the only reason a grown mother does this is because there's something wrong with her, right? So, and that's a hard situation, to continually try to give honor to people and dignity to people who no longer know how to give it back. And yet, I believe that's really what the Gemara is telling us here. Yes. Yeah.
What if, yes. What if honoring your parent meant that you would have to go against a commandment? You would, have to break the Shabbat or kashrut or something like that.
Okay, so what do you guys think? Mike has an idea. Anyone else?
Well, if it's to help them, if they're sick, even on Shabbat, and they need to go to the hospital, you can take them because it's their life that's involved.
Right. So that's the easiest one when it's life-saving. When it's not necessarily life-saving, but it's something they need or want, what do you do then?
Well, and just to clarify, so if your parents are against the religion, let's say, and they, so they're going to a show or something, and they want you to go along with that, that type of thing, where it's not that they're being so good and then you have to help them. They're being difficult parents.
Yeah, and so that's really the question, when your parents' values conflict with yours. And by the way, it could be the other way. Your parents also might observe more than you, and you believe differently. So what do you do then? It's quite difficult, right? Rini?
I think you sometimes just have to pick and choose your battles or your honoring. I don't think any of us is so, well, I'll speak for myself. I certainly couldn't be 24/7 honoring if it became a difficult situation. If it were a choice between my children and my parents, or something like that. When my mother-in-law had dementia, that was easy because I knew her mind wasn't there. So we could go along with whatever she said or wanted. We didn't make fun of her or embarrass her. It was beyond her control. But I think you have to try to do both. But you can't do it 100% of the time.
Yep. You have to, I mean, as we say on an airplane, right? What do we say on the airplane? Put your own face mask on, oxygen mask first. Make sure you're still able to care. But I do think this is the key question in our society, which does not make it easy today to take care of a parent. And for those of you who have parents who are difficult, it's even harder to want to take care of someone who is difficult. And yet, that is actually what the halakha ends up telling us. Michael is right in that earlier he mentioned that Jewish law is pretty clear on we can't be taught to break a mitzvah for another mitzvah. That's called, a mitzvah gotten by ill gains is not observing a mitzvah. So it becomes a much more subtle distinction. I can tell you that I was the #1 customer at the McDonald's near where my mother lived for a very long time. We couldn't get her to eat, but she, who kept a kosher home, always asked for a burger. From that place down the street with the good French fries, Andy, that's where I want it from. And, oh, I'll have it with cheese. I bought the burgers. I walked in there. I went through the drive-through. I bought the burgers. Sue me. I took pleasure in her eating and knowing that I was helping her live. And then when there were times when she remembered the kashrut, I didn't bring the burgers. I think all of us, each of us, struggle with how much we can give of ourselves and how much we can ignore our own values. It's hard. I think what's most important, though, is to have a group of people that you are talking to while you are doing this. And I think for those of you who are dealing with parents who've been difficult at any point, it's good for you to know what those boundaries are. Here, the boundaries of Rav Judah and Rav Shmuel are they're pretty clear. They're not going to wake up dad. Even if it means financial loss, they're not going to disturb the parent. They're not going to. Okay, let's go. Does anyone want to say anything else about this beautiful text? By the way, again, the text is here because it's not necessarily natural to think that it would be okay, right? To negate one's own finances or to allow, in the end, someone to just act erratically. But what the text is teaching us is that the honor of our parents is actually more important than our own honor in this particular case. Yes, Ron.
I think as I get older and my kids get older, I'm certainly far more in favor of honoring parents than I'd ever been before.
Yes.
And I do appreciate your twist on the second story of that, maybe the mother wasn't well and of sound mind. The first one, I guess I look at that also as a parent. I'd be disappointed if I were lying on this key and my kids felt so awestruck of me, they wouldn't say, Dad, could I get this out? This would really be helpful. I would think they've overdone it with the fear and awe. I would not feel good about that. I would feel guilty that I had prevented, wake me up. It's not that big a deal. I'm not sure what the story, maybe they're trying to make the pedagogical point, but I think it's overdone.
Okay, I buy into that with you, that actually a parent wouldn't want them to suffer, right? Yeah, okay. Let's go on to Rashi because we have a lot more text and not a lot more time. So because I have to get working on my costume. I hope everyone's working on their Purim costume. I'm sure Michael Golden's been working for like the last 5 months on his. I don't even think anyone knows who he was last year, except me. So I really do hope that people come on Monday night. You could come to the Purim Carnival and help out. That'd be wonderful. But please come Monday night. Bring your friends. Every Jew needs Purim, especially in a year where there's lots of anti-Semitism. We all need Purim, and we need to dance at the Purim party, and we need to eat, and we need to do some l'chaims. And I have more than one costume for the evening, so I will be doing a costume change, just like everyone at the Oscars does. Okay, so let's read Rashi on Leviticus. Lee, do you want to read for us? Do you have the text in front of you? Oh, I can't hear her. Probably she doesn't.
Sorry, I don't have it handy.
Okay,
I can
all
get
right.
it out.
No, it's okay. Someone volunteer to read. Bakasha. Martha, thank you.
The Torah placed keeping the Sabbath next to revering one's father to say, even though I have warned you about revering one's father, if he says to you, desecrate the Sabbath, do not listen to him. And similarly with the rest of the mitzvot.
Well, there you go, Michael Golden.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
So what do you do? What do you do when your parents ask you to do something that goes against your value system? Because that's the underlying question here. It's not, it could be even if it's not about a mitzvah, it's about a child or a parent having different value systems, and you're being asked to go against your value system. What do you do?
Well, the rabbis have said, stick to your values, that if you are told to lie or steal, do not do that. Explain as best as you can, but don't give in and desecrate your own values.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And we're going to keep talking about it. I want to tell you a little MItzvah story, but after Bob Karp goes, because he has raised his virtual hand.
A virtual hand. Well, I was once asked a question. Suppose you're in an intensive care unit, and remember, I'm now a resident in pediatrics, and you're in an intensive care unit, and someone asks you to, and you're told to do something that you think is unethical. What would you do?
Yeah, and what's the code in medicine about this?
Well, I don't know if there is a code in medicine. I know the answer that I gave was I'd have trouble doing that, but someone else gave a much better answer, which was because it's an intensive care unit, I would do what I was asked to do, and then afterwards I would come and talk to you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would hope that, this is not the same situation, but I hope that a resident would at least ask, and say, look, I don't want to do that or can't do that, but it's interesting. Yes, Martha.
I was going to say, it says don't lie or steal, even if a parent tells you to. What about people who live in a situation where they depend on their children to help them to steal food or to steal something so they have something to eat? I mean, how do you reconcile that?
Where the parent asks them to?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a very, very, very difficult situation. And it's usually the opposite, that we talk about the ethical dilemma of a parent going into a pharmacy and stealing the medicine for their child. It pulls at your heartstrings because, the kid needs the medicine. And if our world were just a bit more equitable, they wouldn't have to be stealing. Neither side would have to be stealing. I think Lana said something, beautiful earlier, which is that there are other ways, and it's difficult. That certainly, you know, in the United States and in Israel and in democracies, there's an age of majority where if you break the law, even if you're a child, if you're old enough to have knowledge of it, you're still going to be held accountable. Maybe not in an adult court, but you'll still be held accountable. Very difficult. I was very, very, very fortunate. When I was a child, I guess I was in 8th or 9th grade, and I was a student at the Akiba Hebrew Academy. I was in 8th grade. And I had decided that I wanted to keep kosher. I decided that at Camp Ramah in fabulous Lake Como, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to a teacher at the school and said, I'm just not going to eat at home. I'm not going to eat what my mother makes. And I will like buy peanut butter and jelly and tuna fish and make my own stuff. I'm not going to eat the lasagna with the meat and cheese. And I'm not going to eat the, what did she make that was so good? Spaghetti and clam sauce, homemade. Yeah, not going to eat that. And the rabbi, the teacher was a rabbi, actually an Orthodox rabbi, said to me, why are you privileging keeping kosher over honoring your mother and father? Shocking, right? To hear that. And amazing, amazing, amazing. What a great pedagogue to say. Actually, the continuation of the conversation was, you can ask your mother or father nicely to make kosher doable for you, but in the end, honor your father and mother means you eat what they make. And when you're 18 and you move out and you support yourself, then you get to do what you want. And that was that great lesson in always we are choosing between different values and different mitzvot. I'm glad that that Orthodox rabbi knew to say, honor your parents is much more important than an extra 2 or 3 or 4 years of keeping kosher. Do you all agree that that was a good decision for him to have made? To teach me? You don't. Really, why not, Janet?
I guess I made a different decision at the same time. And yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to explain it, but I don't think it was a good decision. I think both could be done. I think there's a lot today, for instance, a lot of children are becoming vegan, let's say, or vegetarian, and asking their parents to go along with that. I think a lot of times, in a sense, children are teaching their parents different things as well. So
in the end of the story, the coda is that my parents made their home kosher. They wanted to see if I was really committed. They wanted to see if it was a phase. And they were impressed by the idea that I wasn't, as a pisher, as a 13-year-old, going to force this on them. And so not so long after, they made their home kosher. I could see how someone could do the other, but I also understand that for that particular rabbi, teaching honoring parents was a good lesson. I could see it could go the other way, but it was a helpful lesson.
But didn't Rashi say the opposite?
Yeah.
And I was older than 13.
Right. Right.
I mean, I was like 16, so
yeah. Difference makes a difference. Pisher, not a pisher.
I think it was also an important lesson in seeing things from different perspectives. I mean, it probably just like took you aback, but made you think about your parents. And
yes, and continually makes me think about this is, a very long 40 years later, and I think about what does it mean for people to live differently observant lives. There are people, I'm looking on this screen, and there are people who observe Jewish law in radically different ways than their parents do. And some of you even are Jews by choice, maybe, and so observe whole religion differently than your parents. And then the question is, how do you honor your parents? I had the most beautiful morning today. I think, did I run into any of you today? I was at a conversion at the mikvah at Shirami. I was helping out some local colleagues who needed a third for a Beit Din. And the person had grown up as an evangelical of sorts Christian and is 21 years old and converting. And her evangelical Christian parents came to the conversion and hugged her. And I think that grew out of the honor that she treated them with. I don't know if it always works that way. Oh, wait, Suzanne, are you talking to us or someone else? Someone else, okay. All right, just making sure. All right, we're gonna talk about conflict in a little bit more. Kiddushin 31b. Okay, someone wanna do 7? At whose expense? Rab Judah said the sons. Rab Nachman ben Oshaya said the fathers. The rabbis gave a ruling to Jeremiah. Others state to Rabbi Jeremiah's son. In accordance with that view, that it must be at the father's expense. So what are we talking about here? And I want to explain this a little bit.
Can you help out what the context is? Because
yeah, so the context, it's who's ending up paying for something. And it doesn't, I think what the end to this particular text is that there will always be those conversations about whose view do you keep, the child's or the parents, when one's finally an adult? Whose view? Whose view is more important, a child's or a parent's? At what point does the adult become adult enough that your view can go against the parents? Okay, Kitzubot, come in here. Rabbi Hanina and Rabbi Yonatan were once standing together when a man reproached them and bending down, kissed Rabbi Yonatan upon his foot. What is the meaning of this? Said Rabbi Hanina to him. The man, the other replied, assigned his estate to his sons in writing, and I compelled them to maintain him. Anyone want to talk about the underlying problem in this text? So it's the same problem we have today. Who is taking care of our elderly and who's paying for it? Who takes care of our elderly today?
I was thinking, unless there are adult children that are, I guess, financially able to, in their own homes, if their parents aren't in need of extra, I guess, medical care, they will. But it's usually like the assisted living or nursing homes, and it's paid for by our taxes or by the state, especially if some children just put their parents in homes and they don't care for them, kind of thing.
Well, many people care for their parents, but can't afford to pay the,
right.
You know,
I'm speaking about those that don't want to. Excuse me, I should have
$10,000 a month in fees. Quite outrageous. Yeah, Rini. Rini, you're on mute.
Sorry. Is this saying that as a man gets older, he should leave his estate to his children, but they are compelled to use that money to take care of him? So that if they don't have money, they're using his money, but he's giving it to them. Is that what this is saying?
Assigned his estates to his sons, okay, and there's a quid pro quo here. It's not free. Yeah.
Right, then they have to take care of him.
Right, so the interesting question is, what if there was nothing to assign to them? Would they still have to take care of the parent? Wouldn't they?
Yes, in my opinion, yes. I'm not a rabbi. But
I mean, what this is saying really is that an elderly parent here, at least in the Talmud, provided for his being taken care of. He had an estate. He was able to give it to his children, who then used it to take care of him. So it brings about that very, very difficult question that we have in modern America. What do you do to take care of a parent when the parent doesn't leave you with the funds to do it? I was very lucky. My parents did. I'm sure there are many, I know in our congregation, I've already met many people whose parents don't have those funds, and children then must figure out a way to take care of their parents. It is difficult. Yeah, Michael.
One of the things I've seen that is really difficult is as our longevity has increased, the parents might be in their 90s and the children might be in their mid-70s with their own aging issues. And taking care of one's parents is your obligation, but whether you have the strength and energy to do it from a health point of view is a question.
It's a very, very, very difficult decision. You are right. And, you know, what we see, or what I see, is often when the parents are in their 90s or even 100, that it is sometimes the grandchildren taking care of parents, or nieces or nephews. And when it's no one, then it's the community. Then that's why Thursday night, I'll be playing on my team for the JFCS fundraising, because when I need to call them for a geriatric social worker, they show up with geriatric social workers for families that need. So yeah, what you mentioned is quite difficult, that we have that kind of longevity. I'm going to read this last one. It's a very misubach. It's a very difficult text. Rabbi Yanai and Rabbi Yonatan were sitting, and a man came and kissed Rabbi Yonatan's feet. So you've heard this story already, right? Said Rabbi Yanai to Rabbi Yonatan, "Why does he feel this way about you? What have you done for him?" He answered, "Once he complained to me that his son was not supporting him. And I said to him, and go and say so publicly in the town square and shame him." Rabbi Yanai said, "And why did you not force the son to support the father?" Rabbi Yonatan said, "May one force support? You still don't know this?" They said that Rabbi Yonatan went on and established as a rule in Rabbi Yanai's name that you can force a child to support the parent. I think that you can't. The rabbis had this magical thinking that because the Torah said, honor your parents and take care of their needs, that we can force that. Could you ever see a situation, you don't have to answer this, where the difficulty of dealing with parents would make it so that you wouldn't be able to help them?
No.
Who said something?
Oh, I said yes. I mean, I'm not unusual. I'm not unusual in this. Am I speaking? Yes, I am speaking.
Yeah, we hear you.
I'm not unusual. I have a family, a brother, and he came along in a marriage. So I have a step had a stepmother and a brother, and the way I'm speaking tells you about the relationship.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I didn't have to support my stepmother, and teachers' pensions and Medicare and all those did very well. And I don't wish her harm, but I don't wish her wouldn't get involved in her care. But then my brother did. So, and you know, we're all involved with this complex issue. We don't even mention the question of sheer and frank abuse and abusive parents.
We did before you got here.
Oh, I see. Well, any case,
yeah.
this is all attempts to try to give us a grounding in, from what I'm hearing, and I'm sorry I'm late, is that give us a grounding in the complexities of family relationships as they change in time. The Talmud was written at one time, and you can say it wasn't written for all time, but in a way it was, because it told us we're not gonna be the same as it was, but the principles are the same. We just don't know how. Can't predict how they'll be applied.
Right. And the underlying principle is there will always be a time where people are no longer working and where it is up to the rest of society to take care of those people. You know, we can say that about those who are poor in our society as well, but this is certainly about how we honor parents. Here's this last text from the Shulchan Aruch, very late text, a code of Jewish law. A child born from a forbidden union is obligated in honoring their father, we would say mother too, and revering him. Even if the father was wicked and a serious sinner, the child honors him and reveres him. This is what we were talking about early on about like abuse. Michabdo umit yareh. So it's both, honors and reveres. Moshe Israelis disagrees, and usually disagrees, but there are those who say that one is not obligated to honor a wicked father unless he did tshuva. So which one do you agree with? Caro or Israelis? Which rabbi? Who, and you see they disagree with each other. There's always a rabbi who disagrees with another rabbi. I think what's important here is it doesn't matter which you end up agreeing with. It matters that you understand that the dynamics of family life were the same 400 years ago and 4,000, and a couple thousand years ago. There are situations where it's easy to honor a parent because of who they are. And there are situations where it's harder because of who they are or who we are. I think that underlying, though, are all these commandments that say, honor and fear your parent, honor and fear your parent, honor and fear your parent. Why does it keep saying that? Because it's hard to do. So it's teaching us to do it. Okay, who has comments, disagreements, or brilliant points that they could bring to the fore?
I was thinking with Miriam, with like honoring your parents when she was struck with leprosy, and Moshe pleaded before Elohim to heal her, and Hashem said, well, were her father not to spit in her face? So we never read anywhere where it said that she stopped honoring her parents. We don't know why that happened, but because he pleaded for his sister's honor to be healed, so that request was answered. So that's a point where a parent didn't show love, but she still went on to show honor. She was, that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else want to talk about a situation where they find it either easy or hard to honor a parent? Janet, did they come around?
I came around. They didn't.
Okay.
Can you make it just a little lower for a moment?
So,
thanks.
I mean, later on in life, I honored them. I forgave them for everything. I took care of them.
And you sleep at night. Good.
I do.
Yeah. You know, there are other people, by the way, I'm sure in this Zoom room who have the opposite, where it's not a difficult parent, but maybe a difficult child who can't give you honor as a parent, who maybe deals with some sort of illness or something else. Yeah. Suzanne, did you have something?
No, I thought I saw Andrew's hand, maybe.
Oh.
Andrew, did you want to say something?
I was just reflecting back, Rabbi, on what your situation was and what Janet was talking about. We do have to remember that not every disagreement is a matter of honor or dishonor. I doubt that your parents had as a point of honor for you not to be kosher. Maybe they did, but
Yeah, they were pretty secular.
Well, you can be secular and be tolerant of somebody else's non-secularity.
Okay. Maybe, I don't know. It felt like it felt like the right sort of dichotomy to set up between.
Well, you were there, so.
No, the dichotomy of why would one mitzvah be more important than the other mitzvah of honoring one's parents? And it's a good question. Okay, anyone have anything else they want to say? I believe we are not meeting next week. Is that true? Because of some of us will still be.
I understand it, yeah.
Some of us will still be doing Purim. And I think the week after we're not meeting because it is the Susie Fishbein cookbook night, which I have been so excited about. Can't wait to use her recipes for Passover. And then I will see you in 2 weeks, right? In 3 weeks, I guess.
3 weeks.
I hope, though, that I see you on Purim and on Shabbat. And if anyone wants to end up talking about any of this privately, just message me. And thank you.